Have you ever looked at your lab results and wondered, why is my creatinine higher? Even though I'm eating healthy and doing everything right. If that question has ever crossed your mind, I want you to stay with me, because what I'm about to tell you may explain the discomfort in your lower back, the fatigue you can't shake, or the quiet fear you feel every time you wait for a doctor to call you back. I'm Dr. Richard Hale, and today I need to warn you about something most people never see coming until it's too late. Because the truth is, kidney damage rarely starts with loud symptoms. It starts with tiny, everyday choices, innocent foods you've trusted for years that slowly push your kidneys past their limit without making a sound. And here's the part that shocks most seniors I work with. Some of those healthy foods can raise potassium so quickly, so silently, that your kidneys begin to struggle long before you feel the first sign of trouble. Now, if you're ready to finally understand what's been happening inside your body and how to stop the silent slide before it steals your health, then take a breath, stay with me, and let's begin. Let's begin with a fruit that looks so gentle, so sweet, and so harmless that most people never suspect the damage it can cause: sapodilla. I remember one of my patients, Linda from Florida, a warm-hearted grandmother who adored tropical fruits. To her, sapodilla tasted like brown sugar melting on the tongue, a little comfort from her childhood. She believed it was natural, nourishing, the healthy kind of sweet. But every month her creatinine kept rising, and every month she kept wondering what she was doing wrong. It wasn't until we looked closely at her diet that the truth jumped out at us, hidden in plain sight. One single cup of sapodilla carries a shocking 528 milligrams of potassium, far more than aging kidneys can quietly manage. And here's the part most people never hear: when potassium rises too fast, it doesn't just float around your bloodstream. It interferes with the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, the hormonal network responsible for regulating fluid balance and filtration pressure inside the kidneys. When that system becomes disrupted, the glomeruli, your microscopic filters, lose the ability to push waste out efficiently. Creatinine lingers in the blood like a heavy fog that refuses to lift. For younger, healthier kidneys, this isn't a disaster. But for seniors whose filtration rate has already slowed, sapodilla becomes a silent overload, a sweet disguise hiding a biochemical punch your kidneys are not prepared for. If you love this fruit, you don't have to give it up entirely. Keep portions under half a cup, chill it before eating to slow potassium absorption, and pair it with fiber sources like psyllium husk to blunt the serum spike. Small changes, big protection. But knowing this first danger is only the beginning, because the next healthy food on this list carries a threat even more deceptive and far more common in the everyday American diet. And once you understand how a sweet tropical fruit like sapodilla can quietly overwhelm your kidneys, it becomes even more alarming to learn that a vegetable praised on social media, in magazines, and even in heart health cookbooks can push your creatinine even higher. Beetroot. I'm reminded of a patient named Robert, a 72-year-old retired engineer who loved routines. Every morning he woke up stretched and blended a bright red beet smoothie because he believed it was the healthiest way to start the day. He didn't smoke, didn't drink, stayed active. Yet his creatinine crept upward month after month. His doctors were confused. He was doing everything right, at least that's what everyone told him. But once we examined his diet closely, the culprit was sitting right there in his blender. Half a cup of cooked beets contains 305 milligrams of potassium. But what makes beetroot uniquely risky is its inorganic nitrates. Your body converts those nitrates into nitric oxide, a compound that relaxes blood vessels. Now that sounds like a good thing, and for the heart it often is. But for the kidneys, especially older kidneys trying to maintain the steady filtration pressure, it can be a silent disaster. When nitric oxide widens your blood vessels, it lowers the pressure inside your glomeruli, the tiny filters that remove creatinine. Lower pressure means slower filtration. Slower filtration means creatinine stays in your bloodstream longer than it should. Studies published in the Journal of Renal Nutrition show that seniors who consume nitrate-rich vegetables regularly experience higher creatinine retention, even without realizing anything is wrong. That's why so many people feel perfectly fine until their blood test says otherwise. But you don't need to fear beets completely. Roast them instead of boiling to lower potassium, and pair them with hydrating low-potassium foods like cucumber juice to support gentle flushing. Small adjustments can protect tired kidneys. But understanding beetroot is just another step because the next trendy health food is even more deceptive and far more damaging to aging kidneys than most Americans ever imagine. And once you see how beetroot, a so-called superfood, can quietly interfere with your filtration system, it becomes even more surprising to learn that one of the biggest health trends in America, avocado, can stress aging kidneys in ways most people never expect. I'll never forget Carol, a 68-year-old retired teacher who sat across from me one afternoon, proudly explaining how she switched to clean eating. No more mayo, no processed spreads, no heavy dressings, just fresh avocado smashed on whole grain toast. She believed she was doing everything right. She followed every health show, every popular blog, every doctor's recommendation for good fats. And yet her creatinine kept rising, and she couldn't understand why. The truth was hiding in her breakfast. A single medium avocado contains a staggering 975 milligrams of potassium, almost half the daily limit for someone whose kidneys filter more slowly with age. Potassium that high becomes a quiet traffic jam in the bloodstream, but that's not the real twist. Avocado also contains beta-sitosterol, a plant sterol often praised for lowering LDL cholesterol. Good for the heart. Absolutely, but when it comes to the kidneys, beta-sitosterol can disrupt the lipid layers surrounding nephron cells, the very cells responsible for clearing creatinine. Once those membranes are stressed, filtration becomes sluggish, and creatinine begins to build like a slow-gathering storm. Harvard's T.H. Chan School of Public Health has even reported that excessive phytosterol intake in older adults can alter renal lipid metabolism, contributing to protein leakage, a key early warning sign that the kidneys are under strain. Does that mean you must avoid avocado forever? Not at all. Keep your serving to a quarter of a small fruit, squeeze fresh lemon on top to slow potassium absorption, and never pair it with other high-potassium foods in the same meal. Your kidneys will thank you for the balance. But even this knowledge is only the beginning, because the next food on this list hides a completely different kind of danger, one that slips past your kidneys without warning. And once you understand how something as trendy as avocado can quietly push creatinine higher, it becomes even more surprising to learn that a tiny square of dark chocolate, the very thing many people rely on to eat healthier, can strain aging kidneys in a way almost no one talks about. I still remember Thomas, a 70-year-old veteran who walked into my office with a proud smile, telling me he had finally cleaned up his diet. He cut out desserts, quit sugary snacks, switched to 70% dark chocolate, because every article said it was good for antioxidants and heart health. And in many ways it was. But his kidneys told a different story. Month after month, his creatinine rose just enough to worry him, yet not enough for anyone to connect the dots, until he mentioned his new nighttime routine. 1 ounce of dark chocolate packs around 158 milligrams of potassium, but potassium isn't the main villain here. The real problem is theobromine, a natural stimulant found in cocoa. Think of theobromine as caffeine's quieter, more persistent cousin. It sharpens your alertness and lifts your mood, but it also demands processing from your kidneys. In younger adults, that's no big deal. But in seniors with reduced GFR, theobromine begins to accumulate, competing with creatinine for the same transport channels. When two substances fight to exit through the same doorway, one of them gets delayed, usually creatinine. The European Food Safety Authority found that older adults who consumed higher amounts of theobromine experienced measurable increases in creatinine in as little as 3 weeks. Not because of sugar, not because of fat, but because their kidneys simply couldn't keep up. If you enjoy dark chocolate, choose a version under 75% cocoa and pair it with cold milk. The calcium helps buffer the compound and eases filtration stress. But even understanding this isn't enough, because the next everyday ingredient, one most Americans eat every single week, can hit your kidneys even harder, and it hides in more meals than you think. And once you realize how a tiny square of dark chocolate can quietly slow your filtration rate, it becomes even more surprising to learn that one of the most innocent-looking foods on the American dinner table, tomatoes, especially in their concentrated forms, can overwhelm aging kidneys much faster than most people ever imagine. I still think about Maria, a 65-year-old retired nurse who adored cooking. She made rich pasta sauces from scratch, proudly using fresh tomatoes, canned tomatoes, tomato paste, everything she believed was heart-friendly and wholesome. Her meals looked like something straight out of a Mediterranean cookbook, colorful, vibrant, full of life. But behind all that beauty was a potassium load her kidneys could no longer keep up with. Month after month, her labs showed rising potassium and a slow climb in creatinine, and she felt completely blindsided. Here's why 1 cup of tomato sauce can carry around 900 milligrams of potassium, a massive hit for kidneys, already filtering more slowly with age. But tomatoes also contain lycopene, an antioxidant that is wonderful for cardiovascular health, but surprisingly demanding for kidneys under stress. Lycopene slows down how efficiently the kidneys clear creatinine, and when combined with concentrated potassium from cooked tomatoes, it creates a filtration bottleneck your body cannot easily overcome. Studies from the National Institutes of Health show that frequent consumption of concentrated tomato products correlates with higher serum potassium in individuals with early kidney decline long before symptoms appear. Does that mean you must give up tomatoes completely? Not at all. Fresh, uncooked tomatoes contain far less potassium and maintain more hydration. And if you love sauces, simply dilute them with low potassium vegetable broth or use smaller portions to protect your kidneys. Little changes truly make a big difference. But even this isn't the full story, because the next familiar food, something millions of Americans eat every single morning, can trigger dangerous potassium spikes even faster. And once you understand how a simple bowl of tomato sauce can quietly overwhelm your filtration system, it becomes even more surprising that one of the most trusted healthy snacks in America, bananas, can push your kidneys into dangerous territory even faster. I think of Steven, a 71-year-old retired carpenter who came to me genuinely confused. He exercised, drank water, cut back on salt, did everything right. Every morning he'd peel a banana because he had been told for decades that bananas were the perfect energy booster. But his potassium kept climbing and his creatinine spiked sharply within just a few weeks. He was frustrated, scared, and convinced something was deeply wrong. The truth was sitting right there on his breakfast plate. A single medium banana carries about 422 milligrams of potassium. Not a problem for young, efficient kidneys, but a heavy burden for filtration systems that naturally slow with age. Potassium isn't just a mineral, it's an electrical signal. When levels rise too high, the heart muscles and kidneys begin to struggle. Seniors often notice subtle changes: more cramps, more fatigue, occasional heart flutters, long before blood tests confirm the overload. Research shows that potassium spikes in adults over 60 can disrupt heart rhythm and blunt the kidney's ability to clear creatinine efficiently, allowing waste to build silently in the bloodstream. But you don't need to avoid bananas completely. Eat half at a time, pair it with low potassium fruits like apples or pears, and avoid mixing bananas into smoothies alongside other high potassium ingredients. These tiny adjustments keep the flavor you love while protecting the filtration you depend on. But knowing this still isn't enough, because the next food, something humble, comforting, and often labeled heart-healthy, carries a hidden combination of potassium and inflammation that taxes the kidneys even more. And once you understand how even something as familiar as a banana can send potassium levels surging, it becomes even more concerning when you look at a food that millions of Americans consider the definition of clean eating: white beans. I still remember Patricia, a 74-year-old grandmother, who spent her Sundays cooking big batches of vegetable soups for her family. She believed white beans were the perfect addition, high in fiber, packed with protein, heart-friendly and budget-friendly. Every health magazine praised them, every cookbook celebrated them, so she trusted them completely. Yet each time she went for her blood tests, her creatinine crept a little higher, and no one could explain why. Until we finally looked closely at what she was adding to that soup pot. Just half a cup of cooked white beans contains around 500 milligrams of potassium, already pushing the kidneys of older adults toward overload. But potassium isn't the only problem. White beans also contain lectins, naturally occurring proteins that can trigger inflammation in sensitive kidney tissue. And inflammation is one of the most dangerous things for aging kidneys. It reduces filtration pressure, disrupts fluid balance, and makes it even harder for creatinine to leave the bloodstream. Research from the American Society of Nephrology has shown that when potassium load and inflammatory lectins combine, GFR can drop significantly faster in seniors, even if they feel perfectly fine. It's the kind of slow, silent damage that rarely shows up until numbers begin to rise. But you don't need to cut beans out of your life entirely. Keep your portion to a quarter-cup. Rinse canned beans thoroughly to remove extra potassium and pair them with low-potassium vegetables like cauliflower to help balance the meal. Your kidneys will feel the relief almost immediately. But even this isn't the end of the story, because the final food on our list, one of the most beloved comfort foods in America, delivers a potassium hit so intense that it can overwhelm aging kidneys faster than almost anything else. And once you understand how a simple serving of white beans can quietly overwhelm your kidneys with potassium and inflammation, it becomes even more alarming to realize that one of the most beloved comfort foods in America, potatoes, may be hitting your kidneys even harder than anything we've discussed so far. I think of James, a 69-year-old retired truck driver who grew up in the Midwest. Potatoes were part of every meal of his childhood. Mashed, baked, fried, roasted. To him, potatoes weren't just food, they were home comfort stability. So even when his doctor told him to watch his potassium, potatoes were the last thing he suspected. But month after month, his creatinine climbed, and he felt more tired, more short of breath, more off. The surprising part, his labs traced the overload right back to that familiar, warm, comforting potato on his plate. A single medium potato carries around 926 milligrams of potassium, making it one of the highest potassium foods people eat regularly. But what makes potatoes uniquely dangerous for aging kidneys is their bioavailability. The potassium in potatoes is absorbed quickly, almost instantly, flooding the bloodstream before weakened kidneys can catch up. When potassium spikes like this, it disrupts the electrical rhythm of the heart, weakens muscle performance, and forces creatinine to linger longer in circulation than it should. Research shows that rapid potassium surges in adults over 60 can dramatically reduce filtration efficiency, sometimes triggering symptoms long before a blood test confirms the overload. But here's the good news: you don't need to give up potatoes forever. Boil them and discard the water to significantly lower potassium levels. Keep portions small, about a quarter of a medium potato, and pair them with protein sources that don't add extra potassium stress, like chicken or turkey. Tiny adjustments, big impact. But even this final food isn't the full story, because there is one more factor bigger than any ingredient that determines whether your kidneys stay stable or slip into a silent decline without warning. Now that you understand how these 8 everyday foods can quietly raise potassium and push your creatinine higher, I want you to take a moment to breathe, not out of fear, but out of clarity. Knowledge is power, and you've just given your kidneys something incredibly valuable: awareness. Most people never get this far. Most people don't realize what's happening inside their body until it's too late. But you're here, you stayed until the end, and that tells me something important. You care about your health, and you're willing to make small, smart changes that protect the future you deserve. So here's my message to you. You are not powerless. Your kidneys are not doomed. Even if your numbers have been rising, even if you felt scared or overwhelmed, you now have the tools to take real control. Swap portion sizes, choose gentler foods, hydrate wisely, and support your kidneys with awareness rather than fear. And remember, it's never about perfection, it's about direction. Every small choice you make today moves you one step closer to steadier creatinine levels, stronger filtration, and a healthier life. And if this video helped you at all, even a little, please save it, share it, and subscribe to this channel. I release weekly kidney health updates, simple food swaps, and science-based tips designed to help you stay independent, strong, and confident as you age. Your support helps us reach more seniors who are silently struggling without answers. You are not walking this journey alone. I'm here with you, cheering you on, and I truly believe your kidneys can heal when given the right environment. So stay hopeful, stay consistent, and stay connected. Your healthiest days may still be ahead of you, one informed choice at a time.